So we have quite a bit of time to open up for discussion and questions, um, just conversations. So um, I don't know, you can use the reaction button in the bottom, or you could just, you know, bow in. Elena bowing out.
I'll just repeat the whole thing again, fill up the time. I mean, that's meant as a joke, but actually you could spend a lifetime on this. I mean, we are spending a lifetime on this, but there is just such depth. One door opens to another. I love Wikipedia, but it's also got a downside where I just, start looking up one thing and it's not just Wikipedia. Everything points to everything else, but suddenly it's like 3 hours later, which is most of the time great.
Bobby bowing in. Craig, thank you for your presentation and all the work that went into it, and time and thought and insight. And I always enjoy watching, listening to your Dharma talks. And before you said that, I was going to say, if you want to repeat it all, I'll listen. I'm here. That's good with me. There's so much there, and I was trying to take notes. I couldn't keep up, of course. Yeah, it's inspiring, and some of it, you've heard it before, but it's fresh every time, and you go, oh yeah, and now I'm just gonna click on that link that you sent, and because I didn't until now. Sorry. But thank you. Bobby bowing out.
You're very welcome. I will. If anybody wants it, I can include my notes. They're just, yeah. But
yes, please.
All right. But just reading it, it's just it is the old onion where you just go down layer and layer and layer and different interpretations, and sometimes things are contradictory and or other traditions, but it's just there are just many fingers pointing at the moon, and the more you experience, the better your perception of the moon is by this triangulation. Craig bowing out.
Michelle bowing in. Craig, as always, thank you for the skillful way that you present what could be are complicated topics. The one thing I want to comment on that I'm ever grateful for with your Dharma presentations are the context that you provide prior to diving into the actual meat, right? Because there is so much, you're right. And as I'm as I pick up different sutras or even just modern interpretations of things, I can tend to, maybe it's not important, but I can tend to lose sight of when they came to light or what came before them, so that it's almost like everything I'm reading or listening to is brand new. And then I go, oh, wait, it's brand new, but I've heard this, but I don't remember why, so that context, that just the time that you take putting into the preparation to understand the history and the context, and then to help us kind of set the stage, so to speak. I very much appreciate that. And I get as much out of that as I do about getting to the, like you said, okay, now let's just talk about the actual sutra. And it's like, oh, well, we were, I thought, just because of how it's all interrelated. So I just want to thank you for that. That's very, very helpful for me. So thank you, Michelle, bowing out.
You're welcome. That was a big plus for me, that I when I sat down, I said, what is, we're talking about the foundational document for Zen, but what does that mean as compared? And so I just like worked my way backwards, and then spent the off and on the next couple of weeks just like actually trying to get an elevator speech of what is Buddhism, what is early Buddhism, what is Mahayana, what is Zen. And most of it I probably was familiar with, but a lot of it I wasn't. But just to have having the context makes a big difference in your level of understanding in a lot of ways. Great bowing out.
Fapland bowing in. Thanks for that wonderful summary of history, because I too am sometimes out in space as far as what happened when. But most of all, thank you for the guided meditation. And I'm going to listen to that many more times because I wanted to thank you for that. That was it was very touching and powerful, and thanks. Bowing out.
You're welcome. That was kind of I just thought of doing that yesterday, and I was going to do the 10 stages toward the Bodhi, or 12 stages toward the Bodhisattva, or whatever it was. And then I said, no. And then I remembered this and found this translation. So this, I'll include this, and there are beautiful pictures that went along with this. This was from Paul Reps, was a 1956 translator of this. So that was his poetry. But there's also some great art that went along with it. But yeah, I went through this once or twice, but this, I read it, and I, as I said, I wanted to go beyond the words and to actually taste the meaning. And I, when I first thought of writing that, when I first wrote that, I said, yeah, that sounds what I want to do, but I didn't really appreciate what that actually meant until I did it. So I thought it was effective, especially on me. Craig bowing out.
Fapland bowing in one more time. When you said there were the beautiful pictures that went with it, my first thought was, oh, rats, he doesn't have the pictures. But I'm really glad you didn't for the first time, because I think that would have been, it would have distracted me. I'm going to find those pictures later, but not yet. So it was just perfect the way it was. Thanks.
Just perfect, despite my hitting the bell with my left hand. I was pretty inconsistent there. And then my timer started going off weirdly. I initially was going to time it, but
we worry about such things when we're presenting. Nobody else worries about it.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully everybody's eyes were closed.
Janet bowing in. Very nice presentation. Thank you, Craig. I would like to hear more about the ox herder picture, In Search of the Bull. And this has come up several times, and I know I have pictures somewhere in a book in my library. But I'd like to know if this is meant for an individual's growth on the path and learning, or is it for a community or a school of people who are in process of finding out about the Buddha? And so can you tell us a little more about that?
I can include more information. My recollection is that this is, I think, was I think it's out of the Chinese tradition, It was shared with the West, and this is what I had written down for attribution of the English versions of it. So shared with the West via works such as D.T. Suzuki's Manual of Zen Buddhism back in 1935, Alan Watts' Spirit of Zen in 1936, and then this version, Paul Reps did this translation in 1956. My assumption or impression is that this is just an analogy or a metaphor for how we go about searching for our true self. So it would be an individual pursuit. I mean, this is the quest that you are on, that you started probably a long time ago, where you knew there was a bull out there, but you couldn't actually identify it. And so you search and you search, and then you see intimations of it, and then you actually see the bull, and then you try riding it, and et cetera, throughout. So I interpret it as being an individual pursuit that you're on. But it is powerful. And I've seen other versions, and maybe it's different, but there are other characters. There's a monkey involved. I don't recall the significance or the symbolism of that. I mean, it's probably like monkey mind going on, but
because we ought to reach the source in this journey of finding the bull. So the source is the Tathagata within oneself, and we tame the bull. Who is the bull? Is that a koan or what?
Well, I think that's you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your the roiling mess of emotions that we all are. I think that's the bull. Very strong but uncontrolled. Or maybe control is not the right word, but
tamed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Elena
this,
Bowenin.
so Alana, Elena, just really quick, this is Michelle bowing in. I'll include this and email it, Craig, and you can send it out, but Lion's Roar has a really nice article with modern day illustrations, but they're very cool, but it walks through the concept of the 10 ox herding pictures and what it represents. And Craig, I just want to say that your answer was exactly like what they described it. It is that the concept is that the ox is actually enlightenment and the herder is you. So it's the steps you go through to reach that stage. And so they talk about it pretty clearly, where each picture has a key word or a step, right? The first one is searching, and then they describe it. Second one, seeing the footprints, and then glimpsing, you catch a glimpse, and then it's like the stages along the way. It's nicely done. So I'll forward that to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can send it out to everybody if you haven't
Okay.
seen it before.
That was one of my sources.
Yeah, I really like it. So if you already have it, if you want to include that, I think
Yeah,
that's
I
very
will.
helpful for folks, because it's simple but deep, right? It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like you go, so that's all. So sorry, Elena, I didn't mean to jump on you. Michelle bowing out.
Elena Bowenin, actually, Michelle, you said what I was going to say. So we are in the same wavelength. But I also wanted to say that, this sutra being of the family of the mind only sutras that emphasizes the need for, I don't know, need, but the practice of meditation, um, to achieve or to attain or to go deep into your consciousness, your store consciousness. And the bull in my little confused mind appears as being the mind that is like a bull in a china shop, just going here and going there, and it takes all these different steps, and not only the steps, but constant practice, constant dedication towards all those steps, that where you finally are able to reach the bull, to after years, I guess, of practice, you're able to tame the bull. And then now that you know the bull, you tame the bull, you brought the bull back home. That to me, it means I brought my mind back from out there, from being out there in a perceptive world to being more into a reality touching experience where is the experience is more, I don't know, pure, because it is devoid of perceptions and interpretations. And that is a bull that has been tamed. It's a bull that has been brought back home, and now I can rest. Now I can sleep peacefully, because the interpretations and all those colorings that come with the mind are no longer plaguing my understanding. So, um, thank you. Elena bowing out.
Yeah. Ted bowing in. Thank you so much, Craig. And it's really nice to see everybody. I haven't seen many of you even in a rectangle for a while. So really nice to have a Mahasangha meeting. So I was really excited when I heard that you were talking about the Lankavatara Sutra. I kind of stumbled into it on my own a few months ago. I think it's in the Buddhist Bible, in an abridged version of it, I come to find out, Suzuki's translation. But I did kind of read it. It caught my eye that, Bodhidharma is alleged to have said, this is the only sutra you need to get the core of this. And it is very, very Zen. Mind only. I think this is very important sutra. It's really helpful sutra for me. I kind of had some little tweaks of insight from it, which I think you also captured, Craig. But the whole mind only concept. What does my mind do? It tends to try to classify things and figure them out, and say this is this and this is not this. And this speaks a lot about that tendency of mind to try to label and classify everything, and the unreal nature of doing that. It's and in this sutra, the Buddha keeps likening all of this mental activity to a mirage, a fabrication. But there's one little thing in here I ran into which just connected it to like Zen for me, where there's some paragraph amidst all these hundreds of pages where I just got a lot out of it, where the Buddha basically says, well, you might also try to make the assertion that there is noble wisdom and the assertion that there is a path. But that's also an assertion. You're just doing that with your mind. So in fact, there is no noble wisdom and there's no path, and there's, and so it's all, it's the Heart Sutra, So it got me to kind of realize that even in my practice, I can engage in the same discursive thought, mental activity, trying to pursue something, but the act of pursuing it is a little bit of a mistake. So it's very Zen, to say that there is noble wisdom is kind of incorrect, but to say that there is not noble wisdom is also incorrect. So figure it out from there, or maybe don't figure it out from there, is a little better. So anyway, I just love to. Sometimes every once in a while, and I think the ox herding thing is perfect, because I've been through that little loop hundreds of times. I'm not going to say I have it. There's something to ascertain. There's not something to attain, but there's not something to attain. How about another way of looking at it beyond those? And it is a little bit like catching the glimpse of the ox. There's something to this, and then just kind of allowing yourself to kind of think, to experience in a completely different way that's free of all of that mental classification. So I don't know. It's a very important sutra. Thank you. It's very, I don't, what I'd like to really know is what prompted you to try to take on this sutra. But it's a really interesting thing. That is my question. Why did you choose to do this one? Ted bowing out.
I don't know. I mean, Elaine and I were discussing it, and it came up as being, a prominent Mahayana sutra. I think maybe the Avantamsaka was the other choice, and I've talked about that. I did one in a Connecticut DTO. I did one manifestation of the Tathagata, which was really interesting. But I'm glad to do this one just because this is, a comprehensive embodiment of the basic Zen doctrines. So it was interesting for that reason. I guess that was the reason. Was there another reason, Elena? I don't remember our discussions. It's got a cool name.
It is a cool name. It is prestigious to talk about it. It elevates you, I guess.
Yeah, we get to call it the Lanka.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think we were looking at studying the sutras and studying the fundamental sutras of our tradition and Zen Buddhism, and and I think we thought it was important because of the mind only, and the demand for practice, practice, practice. Like put aside the sutras, put aside the words. The words are just you know air, hot air being blown out, but it really has no significance. What matters is mind. What matters is, like you said before, practicing. Um, being in touch, like the Zen Buddhism in very more strict kind of way. It's like you go and you do zazen and you do nothing else. And that's what this is basically what is telling us, the Lankavatara. Like, forget the sutras, stop wasting time learning all these things that really are not conducive to enlightenment. What brings enlightenment is an understanding and wisdom is sitting in zazen. So that was I guess, one of the reasons that we discussed, I think, if I recall correctly. Elena bowing out.
Speaking of the the worthwhileness of academic study, I don't think I'd heard the quote there about the study and the sutras and kind of intellectual thinking about it gives you the teacup. I mean, that builds the teacup in which you can contain the tea, and then you're in you're in the position of being able to taste the essence of the tea. And I think that is a really good framework. You don't have to build a teacup. Maybe Huining already, from his woodcutting days, already had a great teacup to work with, and so he was able to taste the essence of the tea without that. Many of us don't have that, or maybe it helps whatever we do have. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Thank you.
Elena Bowning, I think, and this is propaganda about the DTO. I think that's what's great about the DTO, that because the teacup, like you say, either you don't have to build a teacup, you don't have to make it. The teacup is the teaching that you choose to be your guide to build your practice, to find the bull, to follow the bull, to search for the bull, to tame the bull, to bring the bull home. Like 84,000 doors to the Dharma. So and I think in the DTO we get that variety of systems of thought and practice that we can choose from, the best one that suits our, I guess, style or need or levels of understanding. And so I think it's, a great opportunity to study with the DTO because it's, it gives us all this knowledge that we can choose from. So we have many teacups that we can pick up. So and we cannot take all of them at once, and that's what what's important, that we recognize that we cannot take all of the teacups and drink from all of them constantly. We need to stick to one so that we can really, really own it and savor it. Elena bowing out.
Sylvia bowing in. When I first I went to a different temple than the one that our DTO is hosting, and so I was so excited. So I told my Sangha there, I said, I am going to learn Buddhism 101. And then this man, he's supposedly be down to here, I mean, just he's not like, oh, he looks so old to me, but just the way he's very he's been practicing Buddhism for a long time, and he's supposed to be like the guru and all that stuff. And he stood behind me. I didn't know who he was at that time. He just grabbed my shoulder and said, "You've done it all wrong. You are gonna mess up." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm excited. It's a new program." And that was trying to explain. I said, "I don't know what it is, but next weekend is my first class." And the guy said, "You need to throw that out the window. If that's what you're gonna do, you're not gonna understand Buddhism." So I turned around and said, "Look, I'm not able to talk to you again," because I thought the man was crazy. I didn't understand what he's talking about. I was kind of offended. I was like, well, if you don't want to learn Buddhism, that's your choice, but don't mock at me because I want to learn. So then as we learned, I'm not sure if, I don't remember which presentation that was, Fatland, but it's like you go to the other shore. And there was the thing that when you want to go to the other shore, you build your the raft, and you have to throw away and start over again. Or if once you learn something, you can't really hold on to that intellect so long, because then it hold you back, right? It holds you back. So you need to let go. So this kind of, as Elena was talking, it kind of remind me of that. And Craig, thank you so much for the presentation. To tell you the truth, I had no idea what you were doing at first. I had to sit there really quietly and say, what's going on here? But when you were talking, I really appreciate it when you talk about the differences between the Zen and the Mahayana Buddhism, because we learned it in DTO. But like I said, once you learned it, it's like, it's new. And then you have to listen to it over and over again. And like Michelle said, that every time you hear it, it's brand new information to me. It seemed like it, because oh wow, I didn't get that last time. And so I knew it's a lot of work what you did, because that was like, I think two weekends I was learning the difference between the two. And now, of course, I had my senior moment, so now I don't remember anything. So thank you for the reminder. And I think I understand what that man was trying to tell me that time, but because I was so new to I was like a baby to Buddhism, I couldn't understand his level of practice. So unfortunately, it's kind of fortunately and unfortunately, the last few years, I had to practice a lot of what I learned. Is like on the job training, it kind of like that. So as I learned, Flatline can vouch for this. As I learned, I practiced immediately what I learned, because things keep happening to me in my family. So back to what Elena said, all this, so many paths to follow, so many drafts to take across the shore, you choose one. And I think the man chose, I think he knew enough to say, you know what, I'm letting go all my raft and go to the other shore. Well, when he was speaking to me, I didn't have anything to hold on to yet, so how can I get to the other shore? So I think it's all relative to where you are in your level of learning Buddhism. So when they say this, it's very hard to understand. But as everybody start sharing their input, I start understanding Craig's presentation more, because now it makes more sense to me. So thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I enlightened when I'm down. Sylvia Balana.
Michelle bowing in. Elena, you talk about the many teacups, right? And immediately I had this flash to being a child. When I was a kid, every summer we would drive to Canada. My dad had a great aunt who lived there, and she was probably the most proper woman I had ever met as a young kid. And every day, every afternoon, she would host tea, and my sister and I would have to go and change to come down for tea. But that wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story is that she had a big collection of teacups. And when you would sit down for tea and have tea with her in the afternoon, your teacup and the saucer never matched. She would interchange them all. And I used to be so annoyed. I think I was like a little OCD little kid. I wanted them, to match. And one day actually expressed that to her and said, I don't understand, you have matching stuff. Why do you do that? And her comment was, well, because every time you all come to tea, it's different. It's a new experience every time you come, because the teacup's different now. You're not using, it's not like you're gonna have the same set all the time. It's a new experience every time. And I was thinking about that in terms of when you said multiple teacups, and then you think about the number of Dharma gates and the number of ways that, you can learn things. And I'm thinking, okay, so Craig, to your comment about, why do we have the teachings and why do we bother? Because, originally I'm thinking, well, we should throw it all away and just sit. Let's just all just sit for 2 hours, that would be great. But you're creating that teacup to hold, those teachings so you can taste the essence. And I'm thinking, well, if I rely on my aunt's perspective of shifting the saucers around, every time we hear something, even if it's got overlaps to sutras or things we've heard before, it's a newness every single time. It's a new understanding. It's a new level. So now I will tell you that I was the inheritor of her teacup collection, and they're all in my dining room. And to this day, I don't match the saucers to the teacups. And it's hard for me to do that, but now I'm going to look at it with much more loving kindness than I did before. So thank you, Michelle, bowing out.
Fat Bland bowing in. When Ted was talking, I was going somewhere, and then this teacup business, all of a sudden I started thinking, well, what does my teacup look like? And I see this. It's kind of fragile, and my teacup is kind of fragile because I'm not a deep academic, and I haven't been studying all these things all my life and all this, so it's kind of delicate. On the other hand, it's made of all these different little pieces, because I've had a kind of a long life already, and even though I came to Buddhism per se kind of late in life, lots and lots and lots came before, including long time ago. But so every little bit of that I experienced, and kind of all through my life that brought me to this place now, it makes part of that teacup. So I've got this little kind of a delicate teacup made of all kinds of different things. So in a sense, your guru over there, I do understand that, don't drill all these shallow holes, dig a deep well. I get that. I totally get that. On the other hand, I'm very satisfied at this, for the time being, of my delicate little teacup that's made of all these different teachings and traditions and all of this stuff. And then when I was thinking about the teacup again, that I've forgotten the name of it, that Japanese, how it went, the broken vessel, and how it's with gold, you put it together, right? And that's how I see my teacup. So I And the other thing is, I don't know if I'm wiser or just more forgetful or whatever it is now that I'm getting older, but in the past, I spent a lot of time trying to figure things out and read, study, whatever it was, try to figure it out. And now I still do that, but not so much. I'm much more interested in drinking the tea. And so I feel like I'm going in the right direction. So thanks. So now I've got bowls and teacups and all kinds of stuff going on. Thank you all.
Jeff bowing in. So I'm going to say a couple things that have already been said. Like Ted said, it's just really great to see faces from DTO. It has been a while. Saturday afternoon is not a great time for me, so I haven't been making those classes. So this is a good time. So it's really nice to see. I've been occasionally seeing Ted and Bobby as we work towards our nascent budding potential sangha. but it's nice to see and hear everyone else now. I was also excited when I saw that Craig would be giving the Dharma talk on this sutra that is like so important that I didn't realize was so important. So I was also very excited to attend for that reason. And I did. There was a lot of information, and like Bobby, I was trying to take notes and not keeping up. But very interesting stuff. Last night, I actually did go to the link on my little pad and started reading Suzuki's introduction, and just that alone was kind of so interesting. And I, one of the things he talks about is, this was done a long time ago about the people who supported him when he was writing it, and how you needed, basically people of goodwill and bodhisattvas to help and all of this. And just reading, I really got the impression that, the effort for Suzuki, it was such a big effort, that, and I guess other things he translated and wrote, that he was really a bodhisattva in doing that. It was such a huge effort and just so beautifully done. And I also stayed up a little too late once I started reading it, because it was good and interesting and enriching. I did very much like your guided meditation. It was just wonderful, and I, it was a few moments of real practice for me, and I ended up by a little bit in dwelling nowhere and everywhere, having that feeling towards the end, which will make the next thing I'm about to say, I think, a little funny, is that I'm with my laptop, the sound is not so good. And so you were saying bull, I thought you were saying bowl. So I was a little confused about footprints from the bowl and riding the bowl back home. But a lot of it still really made sense, using the word bowl instead of bull, that you're searching for the bowl, you're searching for the essence of your practice. You're searching for that, listen, the sound brings me back to my true home. You're looking for that. So it was really a wonderful experience and a wonderful practice. And maybe we ought to substitute bowl in there for bull once in a while. So anyway, it's just a lot to think about, and I will read the sutra. I look forward to getting your notes, and maybe a link to the actual poem that will say ox or bull. But I look forward to all of that. So thank you.
Sorry about my poor enunciation. Yeah, the sutras. I mean, they use usually you hear the ox herding, but this a couple of them that I found in this translation, he used bull in the title, but then once inside the actual text of the poem, he uses ox. So I guess an ox by definition is a bull. So, but a little confusing, but yeah, not a bull, although you could, but that's reasonable to
works too.
substitute that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, Ted, bowing in briefly, I'm just kind of having a little moment here, thinking about the ox or the bull as this really nice metaphor for our personal journey, and then a teacup as a nice metaphor for our learning to hold something else, but they both signify something else. I mean, the ox signifies kind of personal growth on the path, and the teacup symbolizes learning that enables us to taste the tea, and it just kind of also points to, for me, I just love it that there's something in both cases that you really can't quite put into words, so you have to resort to a metaphor of some kind to explain it or to get the idea. It's a little bit like a koan. It's like we're going to use these words, we're going to use these metaphors to try to get someone else to see or to understand what's a new way of experiencing or viewing something, wow. And so and so I'm kind of thinking, well, a sutra is almost the same sort of a thing, a teacup, an ox, or a sutra. They're all trying to kind of poke you and prod you to get the same sort of, to get to a new place. So I don't know. Maybe there's no difference between a teacup and the ox, but we'll see. Thanks.
Or a bowl.
I'll be bowing in. Tell me I'm not the only one that has the image of the bull in the china shop right now. No. And we have to be careful and gentle with that bull. And the thought that was coming to my mind was the bull is that essence of mind that we have. And if we tame the bull, we're one with the bull. Like you hear riders that ride horses or jockeys and they become one with the horse. So you're one with the bull. And if you're not, before you tame that bull, if the bull is our mind, if you're not one with the mind, you're out of your mind. And that's, I can relate to being out of my mind a lot. So, yeah. Bobby, bowing out.
Elena bowing in. Craig, if you allow me, I would like to read something from the book from Pine, Red Pine.
Sure.
So in chapter 50, the Buddha is responding to Mahamati. Mahamati made like 108 questions, and many didn't make sense. But anyway, so the Buddha is responding to each of the questions in this Lavatansaka Sutra. So Lankavatara, I'm sorry. So then in chapter 50, he says, moreover, Mahamati, there are two kinds of knowing. Knowing that examines and knowing that is based on attachment to the characteristics of projections. Mahamati, the knowing that examines, focuses on the characteristics of the self existence of whatever exists, and concludes that they are beyond reach of the four possibilities and not graspable. This is what is meant by the knowing by examination or by examining. So this reminded me when Ted is talking about um you know the bull is this and the teacup is what contains the knowledge, and the other one is like the personal growth. Yeah, I think that's what the Buddha is talking about here in this chapter 50 of the Lankavatara, the two types of knowing. One is the knowing in the body because you're experiencing, and the other one is the knowing in the intellect because you are interpreting whatever it is that you're hearing. So, Elena bowing out. So it's 8:53, and has everyone that wanted to participate or somebody that hasn't shared would like to share before we um, recite the merits?
This is Bobby. I would be interested to know what the next sutra, which won't be for 3 months, but
Yes.
maybe if I start now.
Yes. We will be examining the Diamond Sutra, which is, one that Craig mentioned, is mentioned here in Red Pine, and how, came to replace the Lankavatara in the history. So Fernando will be presenting on the Diamond Sutra next time. Yep. Thank you for that.
And that is April 14th.
Okay, Craig, do you want to call it off? Recite the. Stop.
Yes, I'd love to.
Honey, I will call you back. That's my daughter.
Reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path.
And Craig, I apologize. I completely it escaped me to thank you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you for
You're
all
very
the
welcome.
time that you put in it, and thank you for, helping us understand a little bit more about this sutra. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
So thank you everyone for coming. This was awesome to see you all. The first, the starting of the year. Hopefully you will join us in April 14th. And also in April, remember, is the retreat at Mariandale. That's the annual retreat. I hope to see you there, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Great to see everybody.
Yep.
Before we say goodbye, I did have one thing to
Oh.
just point out. So, there is a film premiere tomorrow from Plum Village from the Thich Nhat Hanh organization, and it's going to be kind of a retrospective about towards the end of his life and his decision to go back to Vietnam, his life there, his passing, but also, I think, hopeful elements of his continuation in Plum Village and the other sanghas from that. So it is available on sure if you just Google it. I did also send Craig an email. I think he's put it in the chat, the link.
Yes.
So I'm planning on watching. I know some people might be interested, so I just want to point out it's going to be the premiere, which is at a specific time. It did say after that it'll be available for viewing. So it's not like if you can't do 1:30 Eastern time tomorrow, you've missed it. You could still see it, but I thought people might be interested.
And it'll be after it's over, but I'll include a link to it so people can go to it and stream it if they want to.
Okay, thanks, Craig.
Sure.
Okay, bye. Thanks again, Craig. Wonderful.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks so much.
Take
Good
care.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
So nice to see you all. May you be well.
Oh yeah, thanks. You too, Janet. So good to see
Janet.
You,
Thank you.
Janet.
you. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.